Good evening, all the participants. Thank you for joining the call in spite of the preoccupation with the national budget today. I start with quarter 3 standalone results, which are anyway uploaded already on our website and published. The net turnover, we have achieved 588 crores, which is 11% lower than last financial year's quarter 3, which was 662 crores. In terms of EBITDA, we have achieved 76 crores against 36 crores of the last year's same period. Profit before taxes, core business level, 61 crores versus 19 crores of last year. PAT of core business is 46 crores versus 15 crores of last year. Now I take up 9 months performance of standalone HFL. Net turnover is 1801 crores versus 2038 crores of the last year 9 months. EBITDA 215 crores during the current year versus 114 crores of the previous year 9 months. Core business PBT 168 crores versus 63 crores of last year. PAT 125 crores at core business level versus 50 crores last year. Now I would like to explain quarter 3 performance versus preceding quarter, that is quarter 2 on standalone basis. Net turnover is almost same, 588 crores versus 593 crores. There is a marginal drop. EBITDA 76 crores versus 86 crores of the quarter 2. PBT core business 61 crores versus 71 crores. PAT core business 46 crores versus 52 crores of quarter 2. Now I would like to present quarter 3 consolidated level, including Heritage Foods, both the divisions of dairy, renewable energy, and Heritage Nutrivet Limited, which is a 100% subsidiary conducting feed business, and Heritage Farmers Welfare Trust, where activities are almost negligible. Net turnover for quarter 3 at consolidated level is 605 crores, a 10% drop compared to previous year same quarter, 672 crores. EBITDA 78 crores during this year quarter 3 compared to 34 crores of the previous year quarter 3. Core business PBT 61 crores versus 19 crores. PAT core business level 46 versus 12 crores of last year. If we look at 9 months performance of the consolidated level, net turnover is 1854 crores, a 10.6% drop against 2073 crores. EBITDA for 9 months at consolidated level 224 crores versus 107 crores last year 9 months. At PBT at consolidated level is 170 crores versus 53 crores. PAT continuing business 125 crores versus 41 crores. So at consolidated level, if you look at quarter 3 performance versus quarter 2 performance, the preceding quarter, net turnover 605 crores versus 610 crores. There is a minor drop. EBITDA level 78 crores versus 89 crores. PBT 41 crores versus 22. consolidated after adjusting fair values. PAT, continuing operations 26 crores versus 2.7 crores, higher impact of adjustments in the quarter 2. So overall, the profitability of dairy has improved mainly because of the decrease in raw material cost compared to last year, quarter 3, and better selling prices of milk and value-added products compared to quarter 3 of last year. Now look at the volumes performance. Procurement of milk from the farmers is 11.71 lakh liters per day during this quarter compared to 13.56 lakh liters per day during the last year same quarter. Milk sale volumes 9.72 lakh liters versus 11.27 lakh liters. Value-added products contribution is 23.12% during this year's quarter 3 and 23.52% during the last year's quarter 3. Our production capacities, if we see now, chilling capacity is 20,46,000 liters per day. Processing capacity is 24.2 lakh liters per day. Packing capacity of milk is 15.35 lakh liters per day. Coming to the capex investments, we have so far done 47 crores in 9 months of this financial year in the HFL, about 47 lakhs in the HNL, which is 100% subsidiary. Coming to the long-term debt, as of 31st December 2020, our debt stands at 115 crores.
No working capital utilization.
And there is no utilization of working capital limits during this quarter as on 31st December. This is broadly the outlook of performance of this quarter 3. Now I open it for discussion. I request all the participants to make their suggestions, seek clarifications, and give feedback. Thank you very much once again for participating on a precious day while everybody is busy with the analytics on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question, you may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Anyone who wishes to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Sameer Gupta from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, sir, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. 2 questions from my side, so I'll just place them one by one. So first is that despite this being a flush quarter, our milk procurement is down sequentially. And I understand we had scaled down on our operations in Punjab, but why from versus 2Q in a quarter, where milk production is at its peak, are we procuring less, and what does it really mean towards our scaling up of our procurement operations in adjoining states like Maharashtra? And as a corollary to that, sequentially milk procurement price is up again in a flush quarter where there is a high supply of milk. My understanding was that sequentially we should see some moderation. So just wanted some understanding on what exactly is happening out there.
Thank you, Mr. Samir. The procurement point of view, there are 2 aspects. One, last year there was significant quantity purchased from the bulk suppliers because of the scarcity. And this year we are not procuring bulk quantity from any suppliers like last year, as the demand is yet to pick up. So we are procuring what is required for our markets in various territories. So second is about the market itself. As you were saying, as you must have noticed, the production season yet to start. The real flush has not yet come, and the milk prices also have gone up. that itself indicates there is availability issue in the market. But as of now, whatever milk is required for conducting our market operations, we are able to procure, and we'll be scaling up along with the increase in the sale volumes.
Understood, sir. That's very helpful. Just a second question from my side. Sir, our revenue target of 6,000 crores by FY24, I see that hasn't really changed, and this is now going to require a CAGR of 20%. And with us really not going all out in increasing our procurement operations, rather we are also scaling down some of our previous acquisitions that we have done. So, what exactly is our roadmap? I mean, just some part on strategy on your end, as to how we are going to achieve this 6,000 crores by FY24.
Yeah, as you know, the COVID has impacted heavily during this year, and the scarcity impacted during the last year. We will have to recast the time frame while keeping our eye on the 6,000 crore target without any distraction. We will be doing it in course of time, and we'll update you.
Anything on your procurement, sir? I mean, scaling up of procurement, anything on your strategy on that front? I know this is a COVID year and demand has been hit.
We'll come back. It's a bit premature now to discuss on that topic. Let things become normal. As I said, we don't take our eye on the target. It remains same, but time frames have to be readjusted. We'll recalibrate the planning.
No problem, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for answering the questions. I'll come back in the queue for any follow-up. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prashant Kutty from Sundaram Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Sir, just to take forward Sameer's question, sorry for again repeating this if it is, but just understanding on the milk procurement part again, sir. So while if we look at it on a YY basis, while you said that last year you had procured higher from bulk suppliers, if you look at it last year also, in Q2 also, that number was higher. But in this period, sequentially, there's a further drop in terms of the milk procurement. So if it was 12 lakh liters procured, it has actually come down to about 11.7 lakh liters. So just wanted to understand, is there any other one-off element apart from the bulk supplies which you don't do? And also want to ask you, incrementally, I mean, should we be at least expecting improvement in our procurement from here on?
Yes, Prashant, certainly. It is a demand-driven procurement. We can calibrate our procurement volumes as soon as we require. Currently, we are going hand in hand with sales. Sales demand is reviving now as academic institutions are opening in most of the states across the country, and COVID vaccine is also visible. The fear factor has come down in absence of positive cases and the death rates coming down. So we do believe soon the demand will become normal with the summer setting in. Then we'll accelerate the procurement also. If we procure more now, it again becomes surplus for conversion into butter and milk powder at this stage. So we are also carefully moving forward on the requirement basis.
So can we at least assume now that the demand is now improving? Because just to ask you one point, because if I look at, let's say, the other listed companies who reported numbers, they have seen a sequential improvement in their demand. I do understand the states are different, but just understanding the same in our case, our sales performance in terms of sequentially is largely flattish. I mean, it's not really changed in that sense. So just wanted to understand that with hearing about the overall HoReCa channel kind of picking up and generally things opening up in post-COVID, isn't there a case that your demand on a month-on-month basis is improving? I mean, can you at least give some sense that was December better than November, or was November better than October? Any trends on that will actually be helpful.
Yeah, of course, quarter 3 was a different scenario for us. October, November, we had one after the other 3 cyclonic weather conditions. And if you all recall what happened to us in Hyderabad, we were underwater for 10 days, 12 days in most parts of the city. So weather was not favorable in October, November, so we couldn't move up our demand. And come December, the temperatures were unusually low. So all the 3 months, they were almost stagnant. Now post the Pongal season, the temperatures have started changing, and from this today, many educational institutions are opening. So we see a gradually demand moving up day on day and week after week in this quarter, but not in the quarter 3. Quarter 3 was subject to several external weather factors and things like that.
Sure. And my last question is, sir, in terms of, you just said that procurement prices have also kind of slightly kind of come up. Maybe it's still the flush season is still on, I believe, but if you look at it from what we had actually kept in our previous month in terms of the milk which was converted to powder and probably kept, how much of that would be there with us from an inventory perspective, and how much could that help us in a rising price regime? The reason I'm asking this is because, sir, if you look at our margin trajectory, we've actually seen very good margins in the last couple of quarters. In the last 3 quarters, I've been actually seeing record margins for us in the past. Just wanting to understand that can we actually look at a higher band of margin in a normalized year? Just wanted to understand that logic.
It's a bit complex issue you have raised. As far as milk powder stocks are concerned, whatever we have manufactured during this year by utilizing this surplus milk and whatever we procured also from other areas, these inventories are more or less enough till August. So whatever price increase will happen from now for the milk powder will be a beneficial scenario for us in terms of margins. So we have secured adequate stocks for the next 6-7 months time.
Okay.
And the margin structure is highly dependent on the procurement prices of milk, and right now there is a rising trend and there is a deficit production and procurement has not picked up. So if it is only a delayed flush and procurement moves up in this month, then price level may be same and we would be able to get benefit in the margins. It is something we have to watch in February, March in terms of milk production, milk availability, milk prices to forecast the margins, which we don't wish to do at this stage without clarity on the production side.
No, but sir, the reason I'm asking this is because if you look at our, you said that our inventory is there for the next 6 to 7 months, so that's probably covered. But like you also said, procurement is something which we'll have to keep doing. And now the procurement will happen at a higher price. So does it mean that it will offset the benefit of inventory which we had? That is what I was trying to understand. And maybe that is why our longer term target of 8% margin which you said will probably be around those levels itself?
The share of milk powder is not so significant to offset the milk procurement prices. It would help to some extent, it won't offset totally. We don't use so much milk powder to milk ratio, right?
What will be the quantum, sir, if you may help us with that?
Yeah, we'll share with you. I mean, this is a forum where certain information we have to hold for the commercial benefit of the company.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. All the very best.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Seva Kumar K from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, can you dwell upon the HoReCa demand? Is it coming back in Q4?
Logically, it should come back, Mr. Shiv Kumar. It is visible. It is moving back, but not to the full scale yet, as we have seen in a normal year. But things are improving week after week, day after day.
Right. Got it, sir. Sir, and can you give us a sense of the debt levels and the cash levels post the sale of Future Retail shares, and what will be the use of cash now?
Yeah, I request CFO to address this.
The debt level is actually as of 31st December is 114 crores. 114 long-term debt is 114.86 crores is long-term debt as on 31st December.
Right.
So we have not utilized any working capital in this. As on 31st December, there is a negative working capital of 30.63 crores. So,
Okay. And the cash levels, sir?
1 second exactly.
Yeah, would you like to supplement, Brahmani, something?
So this is Ramani here. What I wanted to also mention is that after having disposed shares from SRL and Praxis, the total realization was 135.88 crores, and most of the proceeds are being used towards retiring long-term debt. And as Mr. CFO has mentioned, debt levels have come down to 14.86 crores as of Q3.
On standalone basis, cash and cash bank balances as on 31st December is 59.91 crores.
Got it. Sir, since you also asked for suggestions at the beginning of the call, I was of the view that this year has been a great year for Heritage. And we know that the business is a business which throws up cash with a very respectable ROE on a yearly basis. I was of the view that since we got this lump sum from Future Retail shares, and also we have accumulated cash from some supernormal profits that we accumulated this year, why are we not considering a small buyback, say even to the extent of 15% of the net worth, say 65 crore buyback, which will shave off 5% of the equity out there, and which will also take away the weak hands which are leading to this continuous undervaluation, sir. So as a concerned shareholder, I was just trying to think whether the board at any point of time has considered this proposal of a buyback, which has been a very normal corporate finance activity being done in Indian capital markets. Your views, sir.
Mr. Shivkumar, thank you for the suggestion. We've definitely noted your suggestion on the buyback. Board has mandated us to first retire the debt, and based on resource availability, this is something we will certainly consider and certainly take back to the board. Thank you for the suggestion.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aniruddha Joshi from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So, what was the capex that we have done till now, and what is the guidance for FY22? Now, considering we have scaled down operations in some of the geographies, and in general there is some decline in milk procurement. So, do you see any need to incur any capex for FY22?
Thank you, Aniruddha. Yes, there will be certain requirements to balance the growth requirement of certain pockets. Certain areas we have increasing demand and inadequate procurement infrastructure. In such areas we may have to do, and some modernization and automation requirements, some infrastructure requirements for IT, and the replacement capex, certain equipments which need to be replaced, some debottlenecking. There will be definitely some capex requirements for the next financial year, but it will not be like a normal year where we were spending 100 crores plus in the last few years. It might be half of it or closer to that, or even lesser. We are evaluating the requirements. We go by the need basis. Certainly, as you said, it will not be like a normal year's requirement. It will be toned down significantly.
As for the capex incurred so far for the 9 months of the current financial year, it's at 47.1 crores.
47.1 crore. And can we expect around 50 odd crore capex as guidance for the FY22?
Yeah, it will be closer to 100 crores kind of thing, because we have initiated number of projects in the before the COVID, and the projects have some of them have been completed, some of them are under completion. We have created an important back-end infrastructure for curd making, about 50,000 kgs a day in Hyderabad area, and 50,000 kgs in AP state already. Another 1 lakh liters plant is getting ready in Maharashtra for meeting the market requirements. There is a significant infrastructure projects being completed during this year. They consume normal capex, which was there like last year's. But subsequent year, next year would be lower than this.
Okay. Okay, sure. And so, sir, last question from my side. Now, if I look at current state-wise revenue breakup, so AP plus Telangana still will be upwards of 60%. Is that thinking correct?
Yes, it will be around 60-62%.
Okay, and Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, each of the states will be around 10%.
Yes.
Is that understanding?
Yes, right.
Okay.
There will be some fluctuation month to month, quarter to quarter. It will be in that range.
Okay, sure, sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shraddha Seth from Edelweiss Financial Service. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, team. So just wanted to understand with Amul, entering Andhra Pradesh, and we have already seen the, AP Amul Pala Veluva initiative having started in December. So, and we are seeing the aggression only moving up where, the Chief Minister is asking to be spread across almost all 13 districts. So how do we see the implication of this for us with AP being a major region for us?
Yes, Shraddha, I think you are more worried about the public policies.
More on the competitive intensity because now it's only getting more, now it's for real and we have started it happening on ground. So how do we see the implication across?
Heritage coexists with number of competitors in all the markets. There is one more competitor who is coexisting with Heritage in Maharashtra, Telangana, Punjab or Rajasthan, Haryana. He is also coexisting in another state called Andhra Pradesh. That is the first thing. We are not having monopoly in any state, and Amul is not the first time competing with Heritage in AP. And Andhra Pradesh is ranked as 5th largest milk producing state in India.
Right.
So there is a massive milk availability in the state. And as per the unconfirmed statistics available with industry, close to 65 lakh liters to 70 lakh liters is the procurement happening in the state on a daily basis by cooperatives and private companies. In the 65 lakh, 70 lakh liters, we may be getting 5.5 lakh liters. So, how much Amul can procure in Andhra Pradesh? 60 lakh liters? 70 lakh liters? How much competition they can create for existing players? I leave it to you. They are also operating in multiple states outside Gujarat. This will be one of their states, additional states outside Gujarat. So how much money, how much effort, how much time Amul will pay for this state? Or is it just a media hype being registered in your mind? I leave it to you. And we are comfortable. In the last few months, our volumes have grown in those districts and in the state as well. Post Amul's entry, we have gained volumes.
So do we see, any expectation from the farmers in terms of...
I suggest this discussion is not very healthy, talking about competitor by name. I have given enough whatever is required. I do hope you will appreciate and leave it there.
No, sir. I mean, it's a very, state-specific subject.
There are so many political discussions happening. I don't want this call to become a political call. It's an investor's call for company's performance. I have gone a bit out of the way to explain the scenario context. We are comfortable. We are getting our volumes. Our farmers are with us. We have long-standing relationships. There is a value proposition for the farmers to be with Heritage. Beyond milk price, we do a lot of activities for their well-being, for their income increase, for the productivity improvement of the animals, for enhancing the herd size of the animals, for insuring the farmer, for insuring the animal. There is a lot of activities we have been doing for decades that helps us to retain our farmers and our volumes.
Okay, fair enough, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Gosar from Invesco Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, team. Good afternoon. So just wanted to understand, in recent times, we have pulled out of a couple of states. What's your thought process? A, is it more to do with the demand, or is it more to do with supply challenges that we are facing? And B, if we were to see it from interest perspective, are those states not able to scale up, and so we wanted to pull out, additional time or resource allocation was not making sense? If you can help us understand the thesis or the understanding.
We pulled out of Punjab and Rajasthan last year, just before the lockdown. One reason in Punjab was unviable distances in terms of operations. So the procurement is happening in certain areas. Sales are happening in certain other areas. This was the inherited scenario from acquisition of the Reliance Dairy. We tried to optimize those operations, but at the end of a couple of years, we realized the logistics cost and the sale areas and procurement areas are not coming to terms. The distance matters in the perishability aspect on the cost management of the product movement. That was one of the influencing reasons, major influencer for scaling down the operations in that state, Punjab. And Rajasthan, we were depending on a third-party co-packer, which was also the arrangement we inherited from the previous company. That third-party packing solutions were not coming out well. We were not comfortable in handling in a third-party plant. From the quality perspective, we do not operate in any co-manufacturing facilities for the milk, except in that case it happened. There also we couldn't get things under control. We have to withdraw from there. So if we have own operations, perhaps we would have continued there also. So it was not in question of sales or procurement. It's more a viability issue.
Got it. So incrementally, those states may still continue to remain on your radar, but not right away.
Not right now. We have shrunk the area of operations to Delhi and Haryana and adjoining parts of Delhi in Uttar Pradesh, that Noida and all that areas. We are trying to optimize on our existing own plant in Haryana on the outskirts of the Delhi. So we have significant capacity available and potential is there. Milk procurement also should happen as per our policy from the nearest areas to maintain the freshness to the consumer as close as possible. So we have been stabilizing in that area. Once we establish volumes with reference to existing plant and existing markets, maybe a couple of years it will take, then we can take a view whether strengthen the infrastructure to serve the same markets or get into an additional market. That's a call we have to take in the years to come.
Got it. So a theoretical question. You said the packaging capacity is 15 lakh litre per day, 15.3. And right now our liquid milk sales is around 9.7 or roughly a million. So should we consider this as the capacity like to compare, like we will be operating 10 out of 15 today?
So these are all mismatches in the sales and the infrastructure created. So for example, we have created a 1 lakh litre UHT plant. You don't get 1 lakh litres every month, every day. UHT milk fluctuates from season to season and time to time. So similarly, in a particular market, we have 2 lakh litre plant, but sale is only 1,50,000 litres. That will accommodate future operational requirements. So because we are operating in multiple locations, close to 17 locations plants are there. Each plant will have 50,000, 20,000, 30,000 surplus to meet the incremental increase. And the previous peak seasons will be there in a year where you go to 12 lakh litres, 12.5 lakh litres also. Then it will come down in the flush season. So it meets the seasonal cyclical nature of the business and mismatches to the existing sales and the plant capacities. some cushion for accommodating the growth. And in a particular plant, let's say we are reached 90-95% capacity, we'll immediately add a 50,000 liter expansion. To utilize that 50,000 liters expanded capacity, it will take a couple of years again. So it won't be, if it is a single plant, single location, we can optimize to 90%, 95%. But in multiple locations and smaller capacities, these additionalities will remain. And we engage manpower and we utilize the power, steam, water, etc. as per the needs. This will not create any operational costs, etc.
Right. Very comprehensive, sir. This was helpful. One last question. So I've been following this company for years now, and we have seen the kind of disciplined approach you had to the business. But standing at where we are today, what is the top agenda on Heritage mind? Is it the growth or is it sustaining the existing market share? What comes first now from next 5 years perspective?
It's a balanced mix of all. We do not dilute bottom line for the sake of growth. We do not dilute growth for the sake of bottom line. We take a call quarter to quarter in a balanced manner so that growth is healthy.
Right. And did you mention that by fourth quarter or first quarter you'll be coming up with the revised plan for the outlook? I
did not put time frame, but now that distress is behind us, which was caused by COVID, and demand is getting normal. Once operations are all normal, everything looks good, we will have sessions to look forward the strategies and time frames to deliver our targeted revenue. In course of the coming year, we will come back to you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Samir Gupta from India Infoline. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir, and apologies for harping on the same point again. Sir, my understanding is that demand was not optimum this quarter because of weather and unusual patterns. But sir, more fundamentally, our procurement, as you said, is more calibrated towards demand. But my understanding was that we have a policy of no milk holidays, and we don't turn down our dairy farmers, whoever come to give the milk to us. And this has been a USP of the company in getting that loyal dairy farmer base, which do not, as you said, that whenever competition comes, we have enough incentives given to the dairy farmers. So doesn't this calibrated approach raise questions or doubts on, future sustainability of this loyal dairy farmer database?
No. There are two elements in what I said. One is demand-based scaling up. Second is accepting milk, what you said about accepting milk from our farmers. So last year, because of the scarcity, we had to depend on certain bulk milk sourcing. This year, we don't have such kind of volumes in bulk milk sourcing. So comparatively, it looks lower than last year. But actually, if you see own milk procurement today, it is better than last year. That is one aspect. Second is, this year flush is not set in fully, even now, validated by increasing prices. Normally in January, February, milk prices will not go up. They will be stable from December. So now the prices are moving up, is only testifying the fall in production. If production is better and our farmers are delivering better milk, we would never say no. And that's the policy, and that will be the policy. This fluctuations in procurement is a reflection on fluctuations in the production, not on our policy.
Got it, sir. Just one follow-up on this. How much of the milk is procured by third parties, and how much of it is procured directly by us?
Typically, 95% will be our own milk. 5 to 4% will be bulk sourced milk, again to balance the requirement. In a particular area, in a season, our procurement would be less than the sales. We will supplement in that area with the bulk milk, maybe 5,000 or 50,000 or 20,000 shortfall, instead of moving from long distance. I give an example. Let us say in Bangalore area, I have 20,000 liters surplus production than the sale. But in Visakhapatnam area, it is reverse. Still, we don't prefer to transport milk from Bangalore to Visakhapatnam. One, perishability. Second, time lapsed to transport. Then the cost. Instead of that, we prefer to buy from somebody who is a reliable, quality certified partner there as a business relationship, business associate, 20,000 liters in Visakhapatnam and meet the sales demand of Visakhapatnam in that season. This will not remain same every year. In a following year, equations could be exactly the opposite. Bangalore area milk sale is higher, procurement is lower, and Visakhapatnam area is reverse. So again, we won't move milk from Visakhapatnam to Bangalore. We try to supplement in Bangalore in that year. It's a highly fluctuating demand supply management we do on a daily basis, weekly basis, and it's not stable. It's not like cement, steel, I can move from one end to other end. So in this scenario, 5-6% of milk in a season would be coming from other sources. And it cannot be same every year, it cannot be same in same region. Therefore, I won't give direct responses to this. It's a part of managing the business efficiently in terms of logistics, in terms of quality, certainly without saying no to our farmer associated with the company. If our farmers have excess milk for any reason, or our farmers give more milk, which we cannot use, we still take it and convert into powder, butter and hold it for the season. If our powder plant is not capable of handling, it's already full, we hire third-party powder plant and take our milk there and convert it. We have done umpteen number of times where 1 tanker, 2 tanker, 5 tanker surplus is there on a day. We move it to some other company's powder plant and get it converted and take the product to us. We have those contract arrangements with most of.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay connected. The line for the speaker is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay connected while we rejoin the management back to the call. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the long hold. We have the line for the management connected back to the call. Sir, you may go ahead.
Yes, I've almost completed. I was asking whether the response was useful and adequate, or you want more elaboration.
Perfect, sir. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. This is something that I wanted to clarify. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vikrant Kashyap from Kedia Securities. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. I have just one question. We have seen a lot of volatility in our profitability in recent past. Since we are saying the distress is behind us and we are seeing recovery week and week, so do we expect some stability in our profitability?
Could you repeat, please, the last part?
Do we expect stability in our profitability going forward?
Stability is a function of multiple factors, right? One is milk procurement prices, milk availability, sale prices, demand revival, international prices, weather, Government of India export-import policies, state governments support prices. So there are multiple factors influencing the dairy business in the country, and it has become quite competitive. So we always try to bring certain, as I earlier explained, a balanced approach between growth and profitability. So both the levers are utilized in an appropriate manner when to press which way. So we'd always try to and love to achieve that balanced growth. But certain years, some factors are out of our control. As I said, most of the factors are beyond our control. So we will try to utilize the experience, knowledge available and do certain exercise and deliver these numbers. And this year's numbers are because raw material prices were low. They are much better than last year. But suppose coming year the price is stable, profitability will be stable. If prices are fluctuating, profitability also fluctuates. It's a reaction scenario, and this is an essential commodity. Governments do intervene when the price trend is in a unidirectional way, whichever way they can.
Right, sir. So can we assume that this quarter's performance we can sustain and improve from here?
We are constrained from these futuristic statements. So
okay, sir. No. Any update on One Day, how it's progressing?
Deliver and show you what we can deliver.
Yeah, sir. Hope for the best. And any update on One Day facility, how it's going?
Yeah, so the happy news is that the facility is complete, more or less complete, and the soft launch of the product also was done into retail in the past week for one set of products, which is Pet Yogurt. And the final trials for the other set of products, which is Stirred Yogurt, is under completion. So mid of February, we'll have an official launch while the products are being sent out to the market already.
Okay, so from February or say March onwards, we can see products available in the shelves.
Surely, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot of activity around it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Ronak from Auriga Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Ronak, your line is in talk mode. Please go ahead with your
Ronak, you can't be heard, huh?
Ronak, may I request you to unmute your line from your side?
No, you can't be heard. You can't be heard.
Due to no response, we move on to the next participant. The next question is from the line of Ram Krishna V from Equity Intelligence India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Sir, I have a couple of questions. One is on this, what is the bulk buying in Maharashtra and Delhi, Haryana, where you have a plant, and where how much is sourcing from the farmer?
There is no bulk buying in those territories what you mentioned.
There is no bulk buying.
No.
Okay. Sir, if this now the what percentage is the cash and carry business ours? And once that Horeca comes back, will that change?
Ours is 100% cash and carry business, except in case of modern trade, like Reliance or More, Spencer's. These organized retails have terms of trade agreements signed with all the brands. We give 20 days, 30 days kind of credit supplies to these modern trade channels, where our sales will be around 8-9% coming from this channel, modern trade channel. That is the only channel where we have credit supplies for 20 to 30 days, depending on the agreements with them. The rest of the product sale is cash and carry basis.
Okay. That's all from me, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Ranganathan from Doric Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks a lot,
Rajesh, sorry to interrupt you, but you are not audible.
Congratulations.
Your voice is not clear, Rajesh.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, your voice is not clear.
But not very clear.
May we request you to talk to the handset?
Are you able to hear me?
A little better.
Hello?
Sir, may I request you to come back in the question queue?
Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ronak from Aurega Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
You can hear me now?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, I had a couple of questions. One was on the spreads. So currently our spreads are at around 11. So how do you see these spreads going forward? Will they revert back to 5-6 rupees, which is our long-term average?
It depends on the several factors I have been explaining till now. Procurement prices of milk, availability of the milk, sale prices of products, demand revival, contribution of value-added products to the overall revenue. There are multiple factors which we have to see how it moves. There is nothing certain or predictable today to say. Keeps changing on week, month on month.
Ronak, are you there?
Echo is also coming from his side.
Ronak, can you hear us?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So just a small bookkeeping question. So going forward, this fair value movement will go away, right?
Which one?
The fair value movement in the P&L will go away, right?
Fair value movement, maybe this will be there till this quarter, accounting requirements. But the next year it won't be there.
Fourth quarter.
Okay. And sir, what about this discontinued business? So what businesses will be in this line item?
This is related to Heritage Farmers Welfare Trust. We used to conduct all the activities for the farmers' welfare through a welfare trust. But now the instrument of spending has been shifted to company's procurement and inputs division. So these trust activities have been discontinued. This will get discontinued this year. Another one is Employees Welfare Trust is there, which also got discontinued, where they used to contribute from company employees for the welfare activities. That trust and Farmers Welfare Trust, these are the two trusts which are moving out of the activities. They are very insignificant in terms of values now.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I will hand
Is Rajesh coming? I think he's called, we could hear Mr. Rajesh from Doric Capital.
No, sir, I don't see him in the question queue.
Oh, right.
Sir, would you like to make any closing comments?
Thank you very much once again for participating actively in our quarterly earnings call and giving certain suggestions and seeking some information. And we will continue to update you once in a quarter like this. Till then, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.